Welcome back to this course series on Custom Cabinet Planner. We interrupt this series with several new data pages. So today we'll jump into these two new pages. So if I go to the main Custom Cabinet Planner page, which obviously would be renamed to your company name in your version, and then go to the external page, the one with the EXT in its name. You want to leave that when you rename it, just replace the CCP with your company name. And then go to the data page and expand that. We now see that in addition to our appliance database, we now have an accessories database. We've already covered the appliances, the ballpark rates, and the elicitations, as well as the images, but we also need to take a look at this project data. So going to the accessories database, and as with all of these databases, we typically do not add items here. Doesn't mean you never will add items here. Typically you'll be adding them in the various portals in the project page or the procedures pages. But you can see that this database contains all sorts of accessories. You see some hoods down here, you see some drawer accessories, these power blade type things or pull-out blade type things. We see some pullouts from Century products, we see some pullouts from Revishelf, and some pantry units, some Susan's, trash pullouts, that kind of stuff. So whatever you want to put in here, you can. Now ultimately, I think long term, we will create a database specific to the moldings here. We've got some freeze mold, light rail, crown molds. I believe those will end up in their own database at some point in time, but right now the accessories database works fine for this, and there are some advantages to them all being in a single database, especially as we move forward to trying to produce some sort of Kanban based inventory system that would also have QR codes. So if they were in separate databases, it'd be a little difficult to create a single report of some sort that would tell vendors we want to order these things. But this database is here. When we open any one of these items up, we've got multiple fields specific to accessory type items. If you want a photo to show up in the Kanban view or any of the card views, this is actually a gallery view. If you want a visual or an image to show up, then you need to paste an image into the page just below the comments section. And then we have a place here to put the name of the item or the model number or both, and then the brand, and then the accessory type. And then if we want to, we can link it to a vendor. This particular one is not linked to a vendor simply because Century, I believe, does not sell direct. I believe they push you through vendors, and at the time I added this, I didn't know who the best vendor would be. And then we would link it at that room level to the room. So this particular one was used in the Buckley kitchen. If there's specifications for the items like appliances, we would put a PDF attachment here telling us all the information about it, and or we can have a website link that pushes us to a page that tells us more about the item or where it could be purchased, whatever. And then we can have what the opening width is required for this, and as you can see, this is a number field. It has the number in front of it. This is you're entering 36 inches, and then we're calculating for you the metric equivalent to that for the metric guys. And then the same thing with opening height and the opening depth. In this case, the opening depth was not as critical since these are just the pilasters themselves. They can be put into any depth cabinet. And so that covers this accessories database that has been added to the data page of our external piece. And then we have the new project data. And this was added for a specific reason, and that is that we needed to have some data that is project specific as opposed to room specific, but we also wanted it to show on the project page. So we'll have to jump in there into a sample project just so you can see that. But you can see here on the project page that we have a project name, and you can see that these two match. So this is the project we would have created, and at the same time we would have gone ahead and put that same name in the project data to match these two and link them together. And again, I'll jump into a project in a minute and show you how that works. And then ultimately, either right at the beginning or somewhat later, we would add a procedures page for the project and the room. And so we would link that. In this case, we're seeing the project name, and then project name and a room. And so there would be multiples of these if there were multiple rooms. And then we have the notes that are project specific or job specific as opposed to room specific notes. And so if it's not about a particular room, you would put that note here, and we'll have portals into that note all through the projects page and all through the procedures pages. Then a gate code. You'll remember some of these from other areas where we talked about plugging them in, but now they all go into this one place, and because they're in a database, we can create a portal and display them in a bunch of different different places. So at different times when someone might need the gate code or the garage code or the door code or their entry door width, or know where the electrical panel location is or where the water shutoff is, or be able to get to the drawings, or be able to get to the estimate or a signed copy of the estimate or the estimate notes or any notes about the estimate, or to be able to get to the drawing files and being able to get to the field measure double check images. So we take our drawings, our PDF of our drawings out and edit those and make any notes about what should be different as opposed to what we wrote down when we originally field measured it. So any of the corrections would be in these. So this would have been done in an app called Notability. And then the proposals and then the signed proposals. So all of that data used to, or the majority of that data used to live in just data or text fields or image capture fields, things like that. They weren't in a database, and so if you needed to reload the template, and we'll talk about that in the Notion specific course, if you needed to reload it, you would lose those things because they were specific to the page, not the project. And so now with this project data, all these things are saved no matter what you do. So you have that breadcrumb trail. These are always in the database, and you can look at all of them at once if you need to. That's another advantage that we could certainly promote for having this project data page. So let's real quick jump into a project, and you will see that the projects look different than the original course, and that's because this thing is changing all the time. Every course within days of being made becomes somewhat antiquated or somewhat out of sync with what's going on because we're constantly changing and adding this thing. So this piece here probably hasn't changed much. I don't think there's any additional fields. There might be a couple, but what's really changed is what happens down through here. And so again, our table of contents, and then we've always had this portal into the elicitations, and we've always had this project location map area. But now when we get to this job information, instead of just plugging PDFs and things into this page, we're now plugging them into that database we just created, this project data database. And so here in this first piece, we're going to give it a name, and we're going to, if there's a PDF of a blueprint or any JPEGs or PNG files, whatever, any kind of file that would give us information about the job beforehand, blueprints, drawings, sketches, specifications, all those type of things. We would put those here, and then gate code, garage code, door code, entry code, all of these type things are put in here. Now this is kind of your prompt when you're meeting with the client to gather this information. But now you're not just gathering it to the page, you're gathering it into a database. Then we're looking right back into that very same database a second time and saying, what are the job notes? Notes that are specific to the project or job, not notes specific to a room. And so these probably won't be that long or complex as opposed to the ones that might be in a room note. And then, so we're looking at this project database here. Now we're looking at the room database, and we're looking into the one field, the room notes. Before, these were all just fields that you typed in and you couldn't get to them from anywhere other than this page. Now with them being in the database, we can create portals to show them in a lot of places. And then we have a new gallery that we've added recently called the Design Inspiration. It's part of the images that we talked about earlier. It's just another classification, and we can show a portal into it. And so if the client provides you with some images for Design Inspiration, you can upload those. If you come up with some images that would help them make a decision, you can upload those here. And then as we come down through here, you'll see a whole bunch of these things. Now, this is just like it was because it was already part of the rooms database. This is just like it was because it was already part of the rooms database. This is brand new. This accessories database, kind of part of that selections process. What are the accessories that you would like to have in addition to what door, what drawer front, what finish? What accessories would you like to have? So this is that first database that we covered. The link into it, you see it looks a lot like the appliance database below, where we're showing a link to the accessories as well as what the accessory is. And then we're also given a peek into, now that it's in a database, we can say, has it been ordered yet? And in this case, none of these accessories have been ordered yet. Then as we scroll down, or now the estimates have a place to live other than just on the page. And so you would upload them here. And we do need to change kind of how we think about this now. So instead of having a toggle area where we place them, and the toggle area tells you which one was the first and second and third, and we've always named them well, but some people might have thought that wasn't important because you were putting in an area that told it that this is revision 1, revision 2, revision 3 kind of thing. Now you need to be specific with these names, that this estimate might be the preliminary estimate, and then everything past that is a revision, and that your naming structure gets more important now than it has been in the past. And here's another peek into the same database, the project database. So here we're showing the estimate, and here we're showing the signed estimate. So here, ball's kind of in our court to create this thing and provide it to the customer, but once they get it, ball's in their court. They're to sign it and send it back to us, and we would upload their signed copy here. Then the field measurements now have a place to live. And again, we've given you some additional information for two purposes. If I'm going out to field measure the job, I probably need this information. But since I'm going to be out there, if some of it wasn't gathered, possibly I can gather it and enter it here. But I also would enter the field measurement drawings into this database just further to the right here. And then we have a peek into the rooms database, which is where we're actually uploading those field measures now into the rooms page. So at the bottom of the page, just like we would add an appliance image or an accessories image to the page, we're adding our images from when we field measure so that we can use that while we're designing. And it's a little more visible here showing an image. This is just showing one of many images there. And then the design is also utilizing this project data database. But here in the design, we're just showing the drawings and job notes. That's all we're showing. Again, portals with properties we need to see at the time we need to see them. So context sensitive data at the point in time we need to see that data. Field measure, same thing, same database, but now we're seeing the field measure, and here we see those 4 images that would be part of this page. If we needed to jump straight into any one of them, we could do that from here. And then again, seeing the job notes, and then back to our design meeting. We would have a design meeting. We would have any design notes that we make while we're meeting with the person. Again, we're in the project data database. We're adding those notes there so that we can peek into them anytime we need to, context sensitive when we need to. Proposal, same way. And now we've got, you see here, 4 proposals. If we open this, we want to see kind of a preliminary, and then in this case we've just shown some scenarios because this was done before the database was added. What we would like to see here is one that is the preliminary copy, and so the last part of this naming scheme would be preliminary, and then from that point on would be revision 001, revision 002, revision 003, and we would always know what is the latest and greatest and what that sequence was. And past that, this is exactly as it was. The production status area is just exactly like it was. So nothing else on this page has changed other than adding these project data portals as opposed to just using text fields and various block types to put our estimates, proposals, drawings, all this data. Now it's in a single database and we're just linking that. And so if we come right back up to the very top of this page and look right here, we will see that not only are we giving this job a name, but we're also creating a link to this project data and giving it the same name. So if we open this up, now we're in the project data database of this item, and you can see it's linked back to the project. And I'm trying to put these links at the top of all of these pages so you can kind of jump around. So if I wanted to go to the procedures, I could do that, or if I wanted to jump back to the processes, I could do that. If I want to jump straight from here to the procedures, I could do that. And so this is specific to the kitchen for this project. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to go down through here and show you every one of these, but if we were having a selections meeting with the client, we have the project data here, so the things that we might need to know while we're meeting with the client. Again, we can have these portals anywhere we want, and then we have the room status here, which we will see in future videos about these procedures that you can grab and change these statuses here. But that we can put these portals all through here of all these different sections of estimating, field measuring, design procedures. All of these will have peeks into this data because it now lives in a database. So that covers everything I wanted to touch on these added data pages. Up next, we will add a sample company, contact, project, and a room. So what I'm saying there is that we're going to do what we would typically do to add a project. Again, it's a little outdated, but I've added some notes throughout it so that I didn't have to make the whole thing new because we've got this new database. So I've just added notes saying that these things would be in the project database now as opposed to how they were at the time the video was made. Thanks for watching.